talk a little bit more about Harris. Listen, a win's a win. It was ugly, though. Greg Hardy gets heated that the kick coverage unit gave up a 100-yard TD return to former Cowboy Dwayne Harris. Hardy entered the special teams huddle before the Giants' ensuing kickoff, confronting coordinator Rich Bisaccia. How do I say it? Bisaccia.
You got it.
Trying to get that Italian accent. Tries to get Hardy to leave, but Hardy responds, swinging at the clipboard he's holding, and Hardy eventually shoves the coach. Later, Bryant tries to calm Hardy down, and it is unsuccessful. Here's Hardy's response to his behavior.
Sean just said that he looks at the energy you show.
No comment. Next question.
How do you think the defense?
No comment. Next question. Any other questions? No comment. Next question. Any other questions? No comment. Any other questions? No comment. Any other questions? No comment. Any other questions?
What was their general?
No comment. Any other questions? Thank you guys for coming. I appreciate y'all very much.
So there's that. Skip, do you have a problem with how Hardy handled that?
Molly, Stephen A., I don't have a problem with what Greg Hardy did. I only have a major problem with when he chose to do it. I must be the first to admit that when Dwayne Harris ran that kickoff back 100 yards, I wanted to do exactly what Greg Hardy did. I was not a pretty sight in my little living room, and if I could have been down on the field, I would have gotten in some of the faces of those special teamers. But remember, Greg Hardy then had to go out on the field to defend the Giants' extra point. Then as he came back toward the sideline, there was our man Rich Bisaccia. And for those who don't know, he's been around. He was special teams coordinator and assistant head coach in both San Diego and Tampa, now in Dallas. So he's got he's earned some stripes in this league, has some respect. He's conducting at that point the kickoff return team huddle just off the sideline. And Greg Hardy barges into their little planning session. How are we going to return the kickoff? Are we going to return right, return left, whatever they're saying? And he was completely out of line to disrupt that little planning session. And to Rich Bisaccia's credit, he jumped right into Greg Hardy's face and ended up giving him a little shove to get him out of the huddle. I have absolutely no problem with that. If I had been Greg Hardy, what I would want Greg Hardy to do is wait until later, until the special teamers come back onto the sideline. If, as a veteran player who's been around, been to Pro Bowls in this league, if then you want to get up in their faces and challenge their lack of effort on the kickoff coverage of Dwayne Harris, that's fine with me. But you could do it along the bench in the sideline, maybe a little off camera, which led to Dez. I had no problem. This was Dez maturing. Usually, you know, this is the flip side of what Dez, usually people had to calm Dez down. And Dez was being a leader on the sideline just to say, hey, man, take it down a notch. It'll be okay. Just calm down a little bit. And they went back and forth. I think there's no bad blood there whatsoever. That quickly flamed out. And Dez said after the game, no big deal. Then Romo, according to the Dallas Morning News, went up to Greg Hardy in the locker room and gave him a talk about 15 minutes after the game. And I think, if I'm guessing about this part, I'm guessing it led to what we saw on camera from Greg Hardy, because I'm going to guess that Tony Romo, as a team leader, said, don't make it worse with the media. Don't dig yourself a deeper hole by saying the wrong things to the media. So after what he had said, as we recall, about Tom Brady and Giselle earlier, I think Greg Hardy just finally decided, I'm going to go with no comment, and I'm going to say thank you guys very much and turn back to my locker. Under these circumstances, I had no problem with that. So I liked his intent here. I just didn't like the moment he chose to carry out and express his frustration with the kickoff coverage team. Your thoughts?
Well, my thought is, first of all, let's make sure we're highlighting that we're talking about this incident, because you're going to have people, Skip, that are going to take this to another level because of his obvious checkered past. Mm-hmm. When I think about what I saw on the sideline from Greg Hardy, I don't think it was wise for him to do that. I think he came across as being incredible, just a bit out of control, devoid of any kind of humility or sensitivity to, what he's had to deal with and how he's going to be perceived. Now, what I would say to people is that there are two sides to that. On one hand, as far as I'm concerned, that's very good from the perspective of being a football player, being intense, going after it, hating to lose, winning meaning that much to you. If you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, you want somebody fiery wearing that uniform and really, really going after it. And the fact that he was calling guys out because of what appeared to be a flagrant lack of effort. It wasn't just that Dwayne Harris ran the 99 yards. It literally looked like a very lackadaisical and subpar effort on the part of the special teams. So I think that that gives Greg Hardy incredible justification to come across as being as livid as he was. All right? So from a football perspective, in terms of what we saw going out on the field, the way the Dallas Cowboys defense was playing and how a pick six gave the Giants 7 points and a kickoff return gave them an additional 7 points. That's 14 points. The Giants offense mustered 13 points in the afternoon, which means that the Dallas Cowboys defense was doing their job. And the fact that the special teams look so lackadaisical is something that would infuriate a lot of cats. So in that regard, I don't think that Greg Hardy was wrong at all. The problem is that you got your checkered past. And with that checkered past, which involved a conviction from the bench judge in North Carolina, which we've all discussed ad nauseum, you're going to come across in the eyes of some people, not me, not you, but in the eyes of some people, he's going to look like a psychopath. He's going to look like somebody that is completely out of control and has lost his mind. And so that just generates and adds fodder to the discussion about him. What I would say, and I'm not trying to come to the defense of Greg Hardy, but what I would say is this. Skip Bayless, this dude is earning a base salary this year of $745,000. Okay? You know, he's scheduled, they say he could make as much as $11.3 million, but he's essentially being paid, Skip, on a game-by-game basis. The games count, especially for him. And the more games you win, the more it will facilitate you stretching beyond the regular season into the postseason, etc. This stuff really, really matters where he is concerned. And so the games are going to mean a whole hell of a lot to him. But it doesn't mean that you can justify how he looked on that sideline. Because you know how people are, Skip. What they're going to say is, this is your definition of self-control? Well, how was it on a personal level? This is how you get when you get mad? This is how you lose control? You know, and all of a sudden, it adds credence to the arguments of the critics and what they want to say about him because of how he seemed so out of control. Fair or not, that's the reality that he has to deal with. And I think that he made himself look very bad in that regard.
Okay. Do you believe that Jerry Jones should punish him in any way, shape, or form?
No, I think that Jerry Jones should sit him in the office and remind him, no matter how much you got invested in this, it ain't any more than the rest of us. And we don't need you on the sideline acting like that. That's what I just think that he needs to have a stern lecture, because you can't punish him for getting in the face of the guys on special teams and calling them out that way. Because, to be quite honest with you, they deserved it. He shouldn't have been slapping down a clipboard. He shouldn't have been shoving Des Bryant aside. I don't think there's anything to that whatsoever. But I have no problem with him getting in the face of the special teams guys, because it wasn't that Dwayne Harris just ran 99 yards. It literally looked like it was a subpar effort on their part. They looked lackadaisical.
Okay,
they really did.
So after the game, Jerry Jones said he had not seen the incident, so he was unaware of the details, but said, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, he said, I actually encouraged that kind of behavior. One veteran player getting in the faces of those who showed lack of effort on kickoff coverage. He did not know at that point, Jerry Jones, that Greg Hardy had actually disrupted the special teams kickoff return huddle, and that the coach had to actually shove him back out of that huddle. Now, again, I don't think there's any, it's not like Greg Hardy put his hands on the coach or vice versa. It was just the heat of the moment. I think Jerry Jones doesn't need to fine him. I agree with you, he needs to sit him down. I also think it's very important that Jerry Jones on his radio show or to a group of Dallas reporters would criticize that behavior, that he would censure Greg Hardy publicly for interfering with that coach's huddle. I think that's a very important point that the owner/GM must make in the next couple of days.
Well, there's no question about
Yeah.
that. We totally agree. And listen, you don't see defensive players entering a huddle, getting in the face of special teams guys and slapping the clipboard out of a coach's hands.
Yep.
So it does speak to a lack of control. And there's no doubt about that. And you can't let something like that slide. But the flip side to it, listen, y'all, and this is the part where I get very uncomfortable with a lot of critics. And I'm one of them, but I don't cross this line. Skip, I recognize the sport that we're talking about here. I recognize how violent and intense this sport called football really, really is. And when you are out on that field, putting yourself on the line like that, and you think that somebody's effort is costing you or has cost you a game, I mean, actions like this are not beyond the realms of comprehension.
No.
I mean, you can foresee or foreshadow something intense taking place in the immediate aftermath of that, because again, it's not just a mistake. You literally looked at the Cowboys special teams and just said to yourself, do they even want to be out there? I mean, my goodness. I mean, that hole Dwayne Harris ran through was almost as wide as Broadway.
Yep.
I mean, you got to look at it from that perspective. Greg Hardy does not deserve a pass for this. Please don't get me wrong. His actions can't be condoned. But we can't sit up there wanting these guys to be as violent and as ferocious and as vicious as you want, particularly guys on the defensive end of the line, to be.
Yep.
And then when you notice somebody's giving a lackadaisical effort, get mad at him for being furious at them and reacting. He could have reacted better. He should have reacted better, especially considering his checkered past. But at the same time, it was on a football field. And as wrong as it may be, it ain't a crime to get in the face of teammates who you think shortchanged you with effort when you out there giving it all you've got.
All right, so right or wrong, due to its history, some will argue that this isn't passion and it's lack of control. I'm sure the team will address that if they already haven't. So up next, the 2-4 Cowboys host the 3-4 Seahawks. We had another close one on the East Coast, though. The Jets give the Pats a game in Foxborough, but number 12 comes through, as always, in the clutch. Should Gang Green be encouraged by their performance? Find out next. And we've got plenty good topics to give you energy to start your week off right here. Check us out on Instagram so you can see everything we're discussing at the desk today. Back in a few.